Nobody's online. Good evening, everybody. Today is August 20th, 2024. This is the Hannah City Village Council meeting. Everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. May be seated. My wife and daughter out driving. My daughter's never really driven in Peoria, so she has lab tomorrow in ICC. So, Aaron,
Oh, here comes Danny.
oh, Danny's coming on.
Here, give us 1 second. We got one guy coming online.
Hi, Danny, you're late. Danny, do you have anything to add or just here to watch?
Just here to watch.
Thank you, sir. Aaron, go ahead, sir.
Okay. Name is Aaron Phillips with Phillips Zoning Associates. We perform the audit for the village. The audit, everybody should have a copy of the audit. The audit is through April 30th of 2024. And the audit, as of now, is done. Cassandra, you can get all the TIF information to the TIF administrator so they can file their reports. The thing we don't have done is we need to upload the audit to the Illinois Comptroller's website. Their website is not ready they might have made changes to it from the prior years, but it's not ready for us to upload that. So there is one item hanging out there for this year's audit that we still need to do. So it probably takes about 4 hours to upload that info, but as soon as it's available, we'll get it up and get that done and get the comptroller's report to you.
So our only assignment is to submit the TIF information.
Yeah, that's right. Yep. So the Jacob Klein can do their annual report.
Okay. We just give it to Jacob and Klein.
Yep. Okay. And let's see. And so, so that's the last of the audit. Let's see. During the audit, we're looking at, Cassandra gives us her books and we go through and we test them. So we're basically in municipal audits, we can take the information that the city has or the village has, and we go out to third parties and we validate it. So we go to the state and we go through all the state revenues that come through the state, and we verify that, to Cassandra's numbers. Do the same thing with the county with the property taxes. Do with the banks. You don't have any debt, but all the bank accounts we're verifying directly with the banks. So really, the audit is really, in some cases, we can't really do that. Like in a for-profit entity, we're not really verifying all the revenue numbers like we can with a municipality. So in that sense, we're, the confidence level that we have on these audits is really high because we have third-party verification on the majority of the things that we're looking at. And so, we didn't have any changes to the books this year. We do, we house the depreciation schedules, the fixed asset schedules that go into the water sewer depreciation. So we do some things, to get to this, but none of the things that we saw was an adjustment to Cassandra's books. So what's that mean? That means what you're getting on a monthly basis. When you're getting reports, every month, you've got pretty high confidence that what you're getting out of the finance department is accurate. So, they do as good or better job than anybody I see. I mean, for a small municipality to not have any change, for not having any audit adjustments, I mean, you might be I think last night's board meeting, I didn't have any journal entries, but like there, we might have 5 out of 50 that don't have any journal entries. So pretty high bar here. So, I just want to tell you guys, congratulations, good job. What you're doing here is definitely working. Let's see. So in preparing for the board meeting, I put together, there's a 2-page financial report here that I put together. From an internal control, from a processes standpoint, I don't have any issues. From a financial standpoint, I really don't have any issues. And as I go through here, to sum it up, if you look at where you were 5 years ago compared to where you are today, everything, all the financial metrics are positive in a better spot than you were 5 years ago. Just looking on the first page of this report, it's got the general fund, revenue expenses, and then I've got the motor fuel tax fund, revenue expenses, the TIF fund, revenue expenses, and then the business development district, revenue and expenses. And with the exception of the motor fuel tax fund, all of those funds spent less than the revenues that were brought in this year. The general fund had a positive of $192,000. The motor fuel tax fund had a negative $18,000. The TIF fund had a positive $9,000, and the BDD had a positive $9,000. But you can see that all of these, the revenues over the past 5 years have all increased, with the exception of motor fuel, because we had the Rebuild Illinois funds. Right after COVID, we had Rebuild Illinois revenue in 21, 22, and then it finished up in 23. So the motor fuel is really back down to about where it was in 2020. But general fund revenues are almost $200,000 more than what they were in 2020. All of your your intergovernmental, everything from the state is higher. Your sales tax, income tax, video gaming, and then the property tax from the counties, they're all significantly higher than what they were 5 years ago. And then this year, interest income, in the past, interest income wasn't very much, didn't have good rates. Your management's doing a great job of trying to capture as much of the interest rates that are out there on your reserves that they possibly can. And so, general fund interest income in 23 was $1,700. In 24, it was almost $25,000. So significant amount of interest being earned right now on these reserves. So the general fund has a positive revenue over expenses every year. You can see that there's been some transfers. Those transfers are going to the water sewer fund, trying to build a reserve there to pay for a new water tower. And then let's see, and the TIF. So the TIF and the BDD, those were established in 2020, 2021. And you can see in 21, the TIF had a negative, didn't have any revenue, but there were things going on. So a lot of that $139,000 was for the coffee can. The agreement you had with the coffee can to get them up and going, and then also startup costs with the TIF and the BDD. But overall, you can see that the BDD has generated it generated $134,000 of income in 24, and in 2020 that wasn't even a thing. So there's $134,000 that the village is generating, for redevelopment, to put back into the city or the village, to do things. So it's not, so like if you look at 2020, you're really doing the necessities. Now you've got things to improve your village. The TIF and the BDD, I look at these and I think, wow, that's, like last year there was $124,000 that was put back into the community. So real positive. And really, to that note, the BDD still has, as of April 30th, had like $244,000 that was unspent, that had been generated, that is still available for the village to decide how they want to spend that. So overall, real positive. Down at the bottom, I put cash and equivalents just to show you of all the funds except for the water, sewer, and the garbage. That's the cash, the total cash in all of these funds listed, and I think there's a few other ones, minor ones. But in 2020, there was $607,000 of cash on hand, and now at April 30th of 2024, there's $1,132,000, an increase of $525,000 over the last 5 years. And there's no outstanding, there's no long-term debt against any of these governmental funds. So pretty positive. Next page is the water and sewer fund. I put them together. I think at some point, the audit, we should probably break them apart and have different columns, but I'm not sure we've always done it combined.
We used to too.
Okay, yeah, and
Combined and locus. We just divided them out in the last couple of years.
so I'm going to put a note that we should have. I think we can do separate columns in the report for the water fund and the sewer fund and separate them out. So I'm going to make a note in my file so we do that on next year's audit. But for this page, they're combined, and you can see 2020. Every year except this year, there's been a net operating loss. So operating expenses have been in excess of revenues on an accounting basis. That includes in the expenses is a depreciation number. So from a cash flow standpoint, that's not real negative. But for trend analysis, this is the first year that you've had a positive operating results. Huge increase in fees. In 24 due to the huge increase in water costs that you had. So if I look at water and sewer revenues in 2020 were $414,000. 2024 they're 706. That's a huge increase. Operating expenses for that same time period are up about $220,000. The big numbers there. Payroll is up about $54,000. And then Illinois American, your water purchases went from $147,000 in 2020 up to $273,000 in 2024. So about $127,000 increase over this time frame, which is almost 100%. I mean, it's probably 85%. I didn't do the numbers, but I mean, it's from 147 up 127. That's a huge percentage. So that's really the increase in the expenses from 2020 to 24, the big ones. Then also, so grant proceeds, ARPA money, you put your ARPA money into the water and sewer fund. That was two payments of $81,000 back in 22 and 23. And then also we rolled in the sanitary fund into the water sewer, and so now there's the property taxes from the sanitary fund are now in this fund as well. So you can see in 24 we had $38,000 of property taxes in the water sewer fund.
And that actually just goes into the sewer. So when we separate it out, it won't be in the water.
Yep. The down below cash and cash equivalents, same thing as with the governmental funds. In 2020, there was $648,000 of cash and equivalents, and now there's $912,000. And then also there was an IEPA loan that was outstanding that you paid off early, and so you don't have any. There's no long-term debt that the village has currently. So if we just from a standpoint of, hey, and this is one metric, but something I look at when I'm doing audits just to see is what what's the village look like if I take cash and equivalents less long-term debt? What does that look like over a period? And so if I did that here, and total, there was in 2020 there was 918,000 of cash minus long-term debt, and now without any long-term debt and the increases in cash, you're sitting at 2,045,000. So an increase of 1,127,000 over the last 5 years. So just I know there's a lot of things you can look at. Repairs, maintenance. How are you letting the city? Are you not keeping up with maintenance? But from a financial standpoint, on paper, that looks really good. And I know that you're pumping a lot of money into the community. So with everything you've done, all the money that's being spent, and what you're doing for the community, and then to have positive financial position, you guys are doing great.
What would be a like? Because we're going to start to have to take on some debt. So my question is, what would be the like? Where would you that be like a red flag? In other words, as we start to take on debt, how much debt do you think we could have given our current circumstances? Maybe that's a better way to ask it. Before you get concerned. Let's
see if I've got it.
We've got a ton of. I mean, the water tower alone is $3.5 million. Of course, if we get relief, then that would be.
So the village. So on page 26 of the audit, the legal debt margin is 8.625% of the assessed valuation. So you could have $1,667,000 of general debt on your books legally. That they allow for. So that's a number that, from a legal standpoint, is how much debt you can have. But that doesn't include
EPA stuff.
Yeah, it doesn't include EPA. It doesn't include bonds that have a tax levy associated with them. So there's all these exceptions to that. But that is a number, that 1.667 is what's legally allowed. With the water tower, how are you going to pay for the water tower? How are you going to debt service that water tower?
So our hope is that we'll get a low interest IEPA loan.
Mm-hmm.
That we'll get I hope as much as half forgiven. I'm holding Brandon accountable for that.
And we're also trying to get congressmen see about community grants.
Mm-hmm.
So what was it? It was 3.5?
Yeah.
So half of 3.5 at 1.8% interest, something like that. And then we're already putting $10,000 a month away for water capital.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm assuming what we would do, the board would have to vote that we would just shift a portion of that. I haven't done the math on what half of 3.5 at 1.8, what the monthly payment would be, but
mm-hmm.
I'm guessing the 10 grand we're putting aside would come close to covering that.
Yep. Well, yeah. So I think you probably already have that amount, covered. I mean, a lot of times municipalities will add a surcharge to their sewer bill, to pay for the water bill, to pay for improvements. Have like a one line, capital improvement. Hey, we had to do this, or we had to put in new water meters, and they'll add that to the monthly bill to pay for big capital improvements like that. Doesn't sound like you need to do that.
Now we do have we've committed to $545,000 for the solar project out of the lagoon.
Mm-hmm.
So that's got a 10-quarter payoff. So in 2.5 years, it saves us like 30 grand a year.
Right.
So, but between those two things, we could easily have $2 million worth of debt. Of course, you know, million and a half of it, or $1,750,000 would be EPA
Right. So
related.
yep.
How long are those loans normally granted by EPA? 30?
20.
20? Straight loan is 87.5.
Yeah, that's what I had guessed, that it was about $9 grand.
So, yeah, I mean, I'd have to answer your specific question. How much depends on what you're using that money for. I mean, if the water tower, you've got all the things in place. You've been saving money. You've got reserves set up. You've been planning for that. I mean, if you go out, we need new trucks, and we need new backhoes, and we need, those types of things to borrow money on. That's a different thing. So I guess the nature of what you're borrowing the money for would probably, I could answer your question a little better than that.
Yeah, I can't, I mean, other than the water tower and the lagoon solar, there's one, if we were to look into maybe an alternative water source, there might be some money we'd have to borrow to do that, but.
Yeah.
Or if we have to purchase a building.
And a new truck.
I think we could pay cash for the truck.
Yeah, I mean, you're in a great spot. I mean, right now you don't have any old debt on the books, so you're not walking into a situation where, hey, I have these things going against us, and I want to do all these things. You're flush, no debt, and so now all these decisions that you're going to make, you're going to analyze all the potential purchases, all the potential debt, incurrence, with what you've got. So, for me to say, hey, what's a reasonable amount
Well,
of
the
debt?
1.6 number answers it. So outside of something that's EPA driven or something else driven, that 1.6 is a good number we wouldn't want to borrow more than that.
Yeah, yep. Absolutely. Any other questions? You have a list, don't you?
I'll email it to you.
Okay, good. Well, really appreciate working with you guys, and appreciate it.
How many of this have you done?
What's that?
How many years have you done our audit? 3?
4.
4?
Yep.
You should know. You've been here 4 years.
I couldn't remember if you did it the first year or not.
All I know is I can say your speeches and your addressing the council is a lot shorter than the last couple. So
Oh, is that right?
Last couple auditors?
last county firm, yes.
Well, you're seeing things. Brian's doing a great job of analysis. I'm looking at what he's
Managing great.
Yeah, I mean, if there was something, really from a management standpoint, you don't want me to come up here and tell you about managing the company. Really, if there's a problem with the audit, that's what you'd want to hear from me. So,
Oh, definitely. Any other questions for him? No, sir. Thank you very much, Aaron.
yep, appreciate it.
As always, you're welcome to stay, but you don't have to. I wouldn't either.
Good job again.
Thank you.
Do we need to vote on?
Oh, yeah, we vote just to approve the final audit.
I make a motion, we approve the 2023-2024 financial audit.
I'll second it.
A motion by Snyder, second by Johnson. Any further discussion? If we're not spending any money, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Everybody should have a copy of our August 6th, 2024 meeting minutes. Please check them for corrections, errors. Can't even joke with Caleb because he's not here. Say he already read them.
I make a motion, we approve the meeting minutes as.
Second. Motion by Sidak, second by Pearson. Any further discussion, comments, changes?
I'm sorry, who made the motion?
Sidak.
Oh yeah, you're on double duty.
Yeah.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Thought that we had that Joe guy coming.
He was. They did a last minute cancellation. 17th district candidate Joe McGraw. He was a 17th district judge. He's right now retired and is running for the district representative. And they did do a last minute cancel. They had a issue come up, so they weren't able to make it. I didn't have time to get to Brian today, but he's still wanting to come out and talk to us. And they'll make plans later this next month to try to come out and do that. So treasury report, Ms. Cassandra.
Nothing out of the ordinary.
Anything? We have ordinaries.
I mean, it's pretty ordinary.
Did we get a? I didn't see was a. Are you doing it online? The sheriff's bill.
It's right here. Peoria County Sheriff.
I signed a check form and I didn't even see it.
Yeah.
I matched up the numbers.
Just because they're e-billing us now, we won't pay it online, right? We'll still do
No,
it.
it's just they're just emailing me a PDF
Yeah, so-
of the bill. So
Okay, so we're not actually doing
No.
online payment. Okay. Questions, concerns?
No.
I entertain a motion to approve the treasury report and pay all outstanding bills.
So moved.
Second. Motion by Pearson, second by Sidak. Any further discussion? We'll roll call it. Pearson?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Sidak?
Yes.
Rexell, yes. Motion carried. Engineers report, Mr. Lott. Long time no see.
Yeah, I don't have anything specific to present, Brian, other than to react to what you have. So if now is the time, or if you
Yeah,
want
just
to
a couple
set the
things.
stage.
First of all, publicly, so sorry about your mother. I know that you guys have lost her, so we were thinking of you. Yeah. And I know you've got to leave right after the.
I do
report,
have
so-
another one I told him I'd get to if I could. So.
Yeah. No worries. So, can you just kind of walk through, I guess to give you the background, is the last time Joe walked us through this design. And we asked the question, what if we went behind the buildings? Would it be cheaper because we wouldn't have to deal with IDOT? And so I contacted all the parties involved and got a general, yeah, we like the concept. However, in talking with Casey's, because of, and you'll know this, because of
Their setback rule.
there's setback rules and there's runoff and all those things, we had to go way wide of the back and then come back on McAllister. That Joe kind of redid the numbers because he thought it would save us some, and he reworked the numbers and said, well, with the new distance, he thought it wouldn't be as advantageous, cost-effective wise to go behind. So now we're back to looking at the front.
Okay. So my understanding, and I don't want to dive too deep into repeating anything Joe may have presented. He's really good at this stuff, and if he gave you comment and direction on the 116 option, I certainly don't want to differ from any of that. But my understanding is that he provided the route, some understanding of the complexities of IDOT.
Yeah, everybody's got a
Yeah,
picture.
exactly. And
Yeah.
so I think you have all that stuff.
So I guess maybe one of the question would be is if we decide that we want to move forward, what would be the next step?
With the IDOT part? Or
In
back
general.
line? Okay, well, I think it's pick a route, and then we would go survey that. We're going to need to survey it to design it.
Well, I'm guessing at this point, Joe's advice, based upon our conversation, is to go in front.
That would be my advice, and if I could, again, I hate to rehash, that's a complicated, long IDOT there, the cross sections, that's a bad spot. It's not ready for a sidewalk. You got to make it ready. As he probably walked through, you've got a V curve there, you've got the ditch, you've got to get into the gutter. It's more complicated than I wish it was. but going around is about 50% longer. I was questioning the easements and your ability to even do that.
We were fine there.
Okay, that notwithstanding, and I don't know if there's a cost to any of that or not.
We didn't get that far.
But I think my biggest question would be big picture. Is that where you want to send people? Back in the back 40, back of the property, around the building, now where it's not lit, where they don't want to go anyway, where it's.
Yeah, the only reason we were
planning
looking at it
perspective.
was because of the potential, $40,000 to $50,000 cost savings, which is now not there.
Exactly. So that would be my question. If it was a half the price, maybe it'd be worth it. But I don't know that it's that much cheaper because of the length. And it's not an easy cross section either on Pekin. There's a big ditch there that you've got to get through. So if you were to say, let's move forward, working in the IDOT right away to get an IDOT approved sidewalk in there, we could submit to you a proposal or a contract for the survey and the design work to get started if you'd like.
He gave us some numbers that I've got in the actual the streets and alleys portion of the program.
Right. I saw your communicate here, and so. I don't know if you give you anything formal. If you said go ahead, I'd get started.
No, I was just looking to give the board kind of, some general direction as to.
So next step would be to do a survey.
So it's roughly $40,000. He thought to
survey design,
survey and get it all together, and then the rest of the expenses all together, we're looking at somewhere between $205,000 to $225,000, something like that for the project.
So your next step would be to tell us to go.
All right. Any questions on that? We'll talk more in the streets and alleys portion on the cost side. And then the other thing was the IEPA data request. We provided you with a bunch of information.
You did, and it's been very helpful. There's kind of two parallel paths going here. One is the more of the application paperwork, and two, they simply had some questions on the previously submitted, paperwork, next steps sort of thing. So I'm trying to focus on the direct requests, and I can provide this. But I've got 8 items of information I need. You've provided most of 2 of them. Some of them are simple. One of them, I don't know if this has come up. Do you have an agreement with the Illinois American?
No,
Because they'd like to see it.
we don't.
Who
have
would
one.
like to see it?
EPA.
We don't have one.
We don't.
And I know it's
we're not
a
going
little
to.
complicated.
They won't admit that we're operating without an agreement. There is one back from 1987, but we believe that what our position is, if I misstate, smack me, Abby, but that we believe we're currently operating outside of an agreement. They've sent us a new one to consider, and we have not, we've considered it, we just haven't taken any action.
I guess what I would call it is some sort of implied contract, where both parties are still performing. So whether or not there's a current written contract, that's the questionable part. But I would say they're still operating under some sort of implied contract.
And I guess to bring you up to speed, because it's been a while, but I met with Pleasant Valley again, and they decided that they were going to take on the study to determine whether or not they could bring water here and what it would cost and what the discount would be and so forth. So Jim's been working with them and providing them information. All we're doing at this point, they have their own engineer, maybe you know who that is, I don't know. They haven't even involved the engineer at this point. It's just been they looked at the route, they went through and determined where they would have to bore versus whatever. They went through and looked at where they would put shutoffs or whatever and hydrants, all of that kind of stuff.
There's a lot of it. Good.
They've got material costs, I think, done. They're working on labor. Anyway, ultimately it'll be a math exercise as to it'll cost X, our savings is Y. Does it make sense to do it or not? But they felt strongly enough that after we talked, they were willing to
You're
take
a big, with 600 customers.
take on that study. So we're just providing them information at this point. So part of our delay is to see what that.
As I sit and look through this, you have a lot of things kind of coming together, and that's what's nice about the towers. You can continue to do this work independent of that, and it works for either option. So we need to respond to them, and perhaps we can come up with some way to say that it's either applied or you simply don't provide them one, because, you've got a grant reviewer here, not an attorney, not a water chemist, that
Abby, should we
is checking
send
a
them
box.
the last one we signed?
Is that in the file?
Or would we be better off saying we're
Well, the thing with doing that is, you remember the term issue? It's like a 10-year term or something. The question is that you admitting that it's good for
okay?
the
10 years
Yeah.
and then another 10 years.
Yes.
So I guess at this point, we prefer not to submit.
And so that's
We're operating without a net.
That's okay, and that's one of the things that we need to get back to them is how we're going to respond or not respond or delicately respond to their request to be able to see that you have an agreement with Illinois American to purchase water. A couple of technical things from Jim that I'll get over to him. I need to redo the schedule, which is fairly simple. We need to re-permit this. Problem with re-permitting it is only good for a year. That's why we've delayed doing it. It doesn't take that, well, submit it in there. It'll take a while to get through it, which is fine, because I don't think you're starting this in a year, maybe.
On the financial stuff, do you need anything else?
I do. We need to work a little bit more closely to massage this stuff, and what I wanted to see if I could get us to get you maybe a call or come out early part of next week. We're most of the way there. Where I get a little troubled with this is, you need to show that you can pay all this back, and you can, but you don't want to. You only want 50% forgiveness. And so, looking at water rates, what would it do to your water rate if you paid for all of this out of hand? That's a big number.
Do the math. I guess it would be twice that then.
What's that?
If we didn't get the 50% forgiveness, it would be $18,000. The payment. You ran a payment on.
Oh, that was on.
Do a payment on 3.5. At one point,
Well, that's $87,500 a year.
that was on 1.5 though, wasn't it?
Yes.
Or 1.75 or whatever.
Yeah. So 303.5 divided by 20. Oops, forgot a zero. That's 175,000 a year before any interest.
So dividing that by, again, and you're within your rate structure to see what the bills would bump up to. But that's not what you're intending to do, I don't think, is pay for this out of hand. But you have to show that you can.
At the end of the day, if we don't get significant forgiveness, then we probably won't do it.
Right. But we have to go through that exercise.
And I guess to me, to some degree, I'm sorry, it's, they want us to do it. They're asking us to do it. We're asking them for the money. Let's find some middle ground here.
Right. Well, and that's what I say. You've given us, we need to restructure a little bit, that's all. So Hayden's working on that, but I think by the end of next week, I think we can have these.
Okay, so I made a note here that I'll schedule a time with us.
Yep, let's do that. So the end of next week, I think we can have these 8 checked off, because the last one was the environmental sign-offs you just provided for me. So we can answer their questions, this agreement stuff. We'll see how that.
So let's say.
So about $175,000 a year at 20 years.
What's it monthly?
Divided that by 12, that's $14,583. Divided roughly by 600 customers, that's an increase of $24.30 per customer.
I guess my point, how much?
$24.30. 31 if you're round.
But the other thing you got to remember is we're looking at another 24% increase from Illinois American in January.
Oh my
God. We're putting $12,500 away right now. A month, $10,000 for the tower, $2,500 a month for the water lines. Plus, we have almost $500,000 in cash in the water account, so we could take that and put it down on the tower and borrow less.
Plus, I'm trying to grind Washington, D.C. down to the community program, or community grant program, or whatever, whatever it is. I've gotten Miss Orenson's office just by chance. They called me and asked me if I would be checking with him, and I told him, or representing and supporting him this year, and I said no. And they said, why? I went to my whole spiel. I said, I've tried to get a hold of you 3 or 4 times, reference community grant programs for a water tower. Well, water towers water is a big thing for Eric. I was like, yeah, but I haven't heard anything. So I'm waiting on them. So.
And those are great opportunities. A lot of times, it's a steep learning curve, but once you get there, it can be worth it. And then the other thing is whether it's him at the federal level or at the state level to just, lobby for the maximum forgiveness too, You're certainly in a position, we just heard, to be able to pay your part. You've made smart decisions to be able to pay your part, but you're on top of the burden you already have of a high water rate or an increasing water rate, but to be able to, be rewarded for your fiduciary responsibility.
Yeah, the last thing I would want to do is when I was putting the numbers together, I was sitting there thinking to myself, well, they're going to go,
Yeah,
you don't need guys don't need us.
That's the problem. Is you need to be
You need to suck.
destitute to be able to get help, and you're not.
The all best case scenario. When do you think, if we got the money?
Oh, I
It's
think
the
so.
earliest.
Yeah, it's next year. Yeah,
July
Spring.
timeframe.
Yeah. I think you'll find
That's
out.
best case.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're finding out what they're going to offer you early part of next.
So this is a two-year,
Oh, this takes forever.
3-year project.
Oh, it
Got
takes forever.
So, well, hold on. We'll find out when.
I'm guessing, and these guys, I can't.
You're good.
In the year, early part of next, to find out what they're okay. You're approved. Your plan's approved.
No, that timing helps because we've got a presentation later where I'm going to show these guys all of the big picture stuff that we've got out there and the decisions we have to make in terms of where we're going to spend our money. I mean, to be honest with you, if we could hold off to 2027, life gets really good because sewer lining's done, the lagoon's paid off, and that's 30 grand. Yeah, that's 90 grand a year right there.
Well, plus if we get anything from the community grants, there's normally, that helps a lot, especially if it's going to take, if we have to wait on them, it could come to the point where, we're getting 80% of the money, we have to pay 20%. I'm just throwing that out there. That's something would be like easy for us to do. That we wouldn't have to use the IEPA loan. We could just tell Brandon that we want it built tomorrow.
In the way of history, we don't have enough volume or capacity with our current water.
Right.
tower. And the APA is the one that's every year asks us what are we doing about it, and we're showing them that we're doing
Would
something.
we even need a loan if we're waiting to 2027 and we're still putting away, what was it, 10 or 15,000 every
10
month? I mean, that's 15,000 times 12 times 3. That's a big chunk of change.
So it'd be 100 on the water tower side. It'd be 120 a year, so 360
That would significantly drop
plus
what we
the
were borrowing.
4.5 we have. So that's we'd have almost 800,000.
And that's kind of the question with if they're going to give you half of it. If you were to get up to 50% forgiveness, should you at least ask?
Yeah.
We're asking for everything.
Yep, and then find out what the offer is, and then make some decisions.
Yeah.
About what you would want to borrow at what term. For 20-year low interest loan with half forgiveness is a pretty good deal.
So the earliest we would actually have access to the money, best case scenario, is July of next year.
Yeah, I think you're looking at a year.
I mean, that's what we thought. We
And
figured
it's
it was going to
reimbursement.
be.
You're going to build this thing, and then they're going to give you money. So
Oh, it is a reimbursement.
I'm pretty sure that's how it went. Yeah.
Well, that changes things a little bit
I'll clarify some of that for you, Brian, by the time.
because that means we'd have to pay on the loan, right? Until it's done. How long does it take to build it?
We have here. Start in January, completion. He's got 10 months. Seems long, but Jones better.
year.
Yeah. I mean, you do have to demo the other one.
Yeah, no, I get that.
Yeah.
And we're doing a lot there. We're putting in, concrete and a new bulk station and
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
So the punchline to all this is we've got some traction. There's 8 things to do. There's one of them crossed off. 2 of them are easy with Jim. We'll knock off finish the 2 of them that you've already started. You gave us great information. We'll get this back into them into the month, Labor Day at the latest, and let them chew on this and see where it lands. The new construction permit, again, I want to be clear. You permitted, you designed it, you permitted it. It expires because you didn't start in a year. So we've got to resubmit all that. It should just be a matter of changing some dates and sending it back in. I assume there's no changes to what we want to do.
I think we budgeted specifically for the water tower separate from our normal engineering We want to make sure
I
that
believe
when we
so.
get those bills, I think you've been separating them. For
I
us.
have been, yeah. We haven't. I've been frankly staying away from getting into that because that number was old and we're going to burn through that quick. But the plan, the construction permit should be first. But I just want to be clear. Right now, you do not have a permit.
So our only action item at this point is to get together with you early.
It is on items. Their items 5 and 6 and 7, which were understanding your rate structure a little bit better and understanding this payback a little bit better. They didn't like how we separated it out. They kind of want to see some average bills, which I know is.
7404. That's an average bill.
And I know they can be skewed with your 2 large users and stuff, just 2.
Yeah, those are commercial.
Right, and so that's how we need to kind of break it down because the average residential probably is significantly lower.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, it's nothing you guys can't do in minutes. That's
All
what
right.
When were you? Sorry, brief question. When were we considering adding so you said January their bill's going to go up. We have that increase in the water company, right? So their bill's
We
going to
don't have anything, but we haven't heard anything for sure.
So when were we thinking on adding? We had talked last meeting about adding like a prorated rate to assist with the water tower. When was that plan to start? January as well, or sooner?
Yeah. We never made a decision to put anything in relative to the water tower.
That would be when we're actually moving forward on it.
Well, in January, we have an automatic, 2.9% raise?
Yeah, so water always goes up 2.7% unless we vote differently every January. And that's because that's what the average amount has been up until the last 3 years when it's blown up. They've told us, in theory, that we could see as high as 24% increase in January, which would have nothing to do with the water tower. But that's, all in over the last 3 years, that's almost a 50% increase in what we're paying Illinois American Water for the water. And we pass that straight through to the customer. The only discussion we did have was increasing the amount every month that we put away into capital for the water tower. We went from $7,500, I think, a month to $10,000 with this budget cycle, if I remember right.
Okay.
And I've got a presentation later that's going to kind of lay out all of this stuff across all the different areas so you can look at the bigger picture, step back, and
Yeah, I'm trying to be a steward of our residents' finances, and that is going to hurt a lot of people. That's going to be a 50% increase. So what I was wondering is if we can kind of change the time frame we're starting it and make it a prorated increase. So instead of January 1st, your bill goes up by 70%, maybe it can go up by 40, and then, come June, go up another, you know what I mean? I'm probably jumping the gun. I'm thinking, times are tough for everybody, and I'm also thinking about those 2 businesses, right? This is going to be a big blow for them, and I'm just kind of wondering what that's going to look like.
Well, in January, it'll be less because they don't operate a lot. One being the car wash, because their volume goes down dramatically in the winter.
Just on a yearly average.
Yeah.
Man, Jim and I talked about this today, and I looked at some rough numbers, and we're only 3 months into the year. But through 3 months into the year, I think we're ahead like $47,000 to the good, right?
Right.
And if you back out the $10,000 a month for the tower, well, we're actually putting 12.5. So what's 12.5 times 3? Somebody.
12.5 times
36.
37.5.
37.5-ish.
Yeah. So we've got a roughly $10,000 buffer over 3 months, so $3,000 a month. My point is we're operating at a surplus right now through the first 3 months of roughly, let's call it $2,500 a month. So to your point, when we get to January, we could take we could say we're not going to increase our total rates. We can take that $2,500 a month and cover a portion of the cost increase. That would be a board decision. You follow what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And that would buffer some of the increase too. But that would then put us roughly at a break even, right? Our operating costs plus what we put aside for capital.
which is not a bad thing, but you also had a tower coming.
Yep.
But we shouldn't operate in the black anymore, in the red, because we've done that in the past, and it really bit us there for a while.
Our goal, to some degree, is for each of the utilities' income to cover the operational costs plus the projected capital cost to do the things that we need to do. Right now, we're kind of in this bubble of all of this basic infrastructure capital cost that once that stuff's done. So like, for example, we're spending $60,000 a year line and sewers. We're going to do that for the next 3 years. Once that's done, we're not going to have to do that again for 25 years, right? And so that cost goes away. But the town's got their sewers pretty much all where they need to be.
Yep. I think that Brian put it best to be proactive instead of reactive.
Yeah, for sure. It's just,
it's not easy.
yeah, it's a rough situation. I understand.
I mean, look at it this way. Before you were on the board, we had gotten to the point where we had gotten to a break-even plus capital place, thinking if we did the 2.7% increase a year, which was the average, we would be fine.
That was like the next year.
And then the next year, it was 30%.
40. Water was historically in the red,
Yeah.
like all the time, and then we finally got it into the black, and they started increasing it.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I've heard that before.
Nothing else, Brandon?
I have nothing else but a list of assignments here. Thank you for the signatures. Brian, I'll get you something.
As long as the bills that you put in are separate, normal engineering or general regular stuff, and then the water tower, so that we can put it in the right account.
Do you want me to get the survey? We are swamped. I won't be out here tomorrow to survey. Do you want me to pencil you in later?
For what?
Sidewalk?
No.
Okay. Let me know. We are quite a ways out. So
I will let you know after this meeting.
I won't spend your money quickly. That's for sure.
Well, it's going to be. I'll be. The board will decide tonight.
Okay.
You know,
Understood. Yeah, I didn't realize you didn't vote. I'm sorry. Okay. Thank you.
About what?
I don't know, you said remember to. Right here.
Oh, build that
Oh,
water
good.
tower to the tower.
Got it.
Just like we're doing with the code book.
Got it.
Miss Abby?
No new code book updates really. I'm still working on Title IV on property and residential regulations, I believe it's called. Other than that, this will be my last meeting here. I'm leaving the law firm at the end of this month, so that's pretty much it on that. But Bill and another attorney that works with our office, her name is Shanna, she and Bill, I think, will alternate between meetings. So you'll see her with Bill probably for the first couple. End of report.
Well, thank you for everything. We definitely appreciate all you've done for the village.
Great to see you go.
Thank you.
And they'll be picking up the code book and everything from there.
Yes, so I have plans for my goal before I leave, and I've updated Brian on that too. So yeah, they'll be prepared.
So Bill and I and her talked today, and basically we said we're going to try to get the two things the code book states he's working on done before she goes. Then the ball will be in our court for a while, and I told Bill maybe let's put a pin on the other ones till we work our way through that, and then we can get the other gal up to speed and go from there.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Abby, for everything you've done.
Yeah, you're
Being
welcome.
Nobody went to jail under your watch.
Yeah, we're not close.
I've enjoyed working with you all.
Where's
Caleb?
No, not Kill. Just watch it kill. But I still owe you lunch, and I'll try to get with you this week.
Okay.
Heavy sigh.
Administrator's report.
Okay, the first thing is the finances. So this is the first quarter. So we're through 3 months, May, June, July. So this is the end of Q1 of our fiscal year. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this because we've got a lot going here, but I'll go through it quickly. The July core funds, we had income of $150, expenses of $93,
follow that straight down. So we had a positive variance of $56,000 for the month. This time of year is always good because expenses are low and property taxes coming in, and so we're always doing well. But we budgeted for that more accurately, and we're still doing better than budget. So general, we were positive 26, water 19, sewer about 9,000, and garbage a little over 1,200. Summary then, and this is what I have her put in the minutes, okay, is just that we were positive 56.25. Again, general, you can see that income's better on general. Property tax, and actually the state income tax was way high. Expenses were lower than budget, even though we had double Perry County Sheriff's Department bills, which we're hopefully fixing with e-billing. Water was positive. I did have, our income is better than budget, and that's on the sales side. Our purchases are lower than budget. When I say purchases, I mean from Illinois American. I had Jim check today on gallons. We're down on the gallon side too a little bit in terms of year over year, what we've normally purchased.
You see, probably within the next 3 months, we'll be out here to check the meter again.
Yeah. Sewer, again, property tax. We had our expenses were better than budget, even though we had about the $2,500 annual IEPA permit for the lagoon. And garbage pretty much runs right around $1,200 at this point a month. If you look at July MFT, you'll notice the big expenses. We never know when it's going to hit July, August, September. I think we budget for the MFT program in August, so it'll probably catch up next month. But that was all the street work that was done, that $54,000. July TIF, again, property tax month, so it was better than what we expected, keeping in mind a portion of that goes back to the other taxing entities, taxing bodies. July BED, it's nice to see that our income is on budget, even though we did lower the budget this year, but sales tax has been down. Tennessee sales tax has been down, and therefore BDD tax has been down. But so far this year, it's been a little bit better. Monthly income expense, then again, this would be what we put in the minutes. MFT was negative. Again, that was because of the expenses coming in earlier before budget. There's a typo on the TIF. It's really not that big a number. It's $20,722. But the property tax is better and the expenses are better, but that's because of timing, and the same on BDD. Core funds year to date. So non-adjusted, meaning stuff that we paid cash for. We had income of $485.63, expenses at $344, so a positive of $136. And then if the next page, I put the next page is wrong, so I gave you this. This is the updated version of that next slide, the year-to-date core funds adjusted. I don't know what I did, but I had it wrong. No. So really, when you adjust, meaning if you take out the cash that we moved from savings, ARPA money for the blower, the meter radios, and then the lagoon loan, at this point, we're $201,000, almost $202,000 to the good through the first 3 months. The next slide, you're done. Core funds, that is unadjusted. And then if you look at the next slide, where we adjusted, so that's where that 47,000 number came on water. That's what we made through the first 3 months. General is 112, water 47, sewer 38, garbage 3. So again, finally to the point where each of the utilities is covering itself. Then core fund adjusted summary. So general income, again, is property and state income. Water sales are better, and the interest we're getting from Illinois funds. Again, I think all that I've pretty much covered. Year-to-date MFT, the expenses are just timing. Everything else seems to be on track. Year-to-date TIF, all the property tax comes in early in the year and expenses come in later. And again, keep in mind 80% of the increase in residential goes back to the other taxing bodies, so that number will be able to come down.
Don't get too excited.
Yeah, don't get too worked up. Year-to-date BDD, again, I'm glad to see that the income is at least on the revised budget. Expenses are lower, but that's somewhat timing of the grants. Cash, very last page, checking, we're at $475. That was down because we moved money into the Illinois funds for over the month. Year-to-date variance is up, savings, monthly variance is up, and year-to-date variance up, and total cash we're up on both. And then I added this last slide. I'm going to start doing this on a quarterly basis. But first quarter trends. Property tax is trending better than what we expected. State income tax is better than what we expected. Our sales tax is slightly improved, but not where it has been. Interest income is trending more positive because we're putting more money in Illinois funds. We believe we fixed the police protection billing issues with e-billing, so that won't happen hopefully in the future. Water sales is trending slightly better than budget, and that's dollar-based. Water purchases below budget, and that's dollar-based. Lagoon solar loan draw has begun, 52,000, so that's 545 total once we get into it heavy. We did carry over some capital purchases that we didn't get in on last year's numbers, but you see that when I adjust it. TIF income is strong, property tax is up, BDD income is improving, sales tax is doing better, and cash flow is strong. We're moving money to Illinois funds. What did we moved some again this month? How much did we move? Do you remember? 30 to 40,000.
40,300 exactly.
40,300. Yeah. So every month where we can, we're moving money back and forth with Illinois funds to make sure that we're getting the most out of the interest. And then if you want the detail on the cash, it's on this spreadsheet, which is after that, but it basically shows you each of the accounts and where they were compared month over month and year to date. All right, I have the next thing is the presentation I was talking about. And the reason I'm sharing this is because, as Ryan and I have talked, we think it's important that we all take a step back and look at the total expenses that we're looking at moving forward. So this is the Village of Hannah City Financial Analysis, August 2004, in your deck. So current status, we currently have income of around $1.6 million a year. Our estimated annual cost this year is $1.25, and then we also put another $282,000 into capital savings. So that means we're running on a buffer. If everything hit the budget perfect, we're running on a buffer of about $65,000 for the year. Positive. Potential income increases. So we've got Hannah City Glassford Corner. So right over here, Hannah City Glassford, 116, that corner. We've got a solar farm proposal that they're working on with Ameren, which would be new property tax, would go from farming to commercial.
That's still moving forward as far as you know?
It's slow, but it's moving forward. And so I think it's going to happen. And so that'll be good for us. And then the Herman brothers own all the frontage property there. And they're talking about putting their headquarters in there and the retail business for their fish and pond.
I know they had talked about maybe putting something down on.
That's where they're putting the actual fishery, okay. But the retail space would be here along the frontage road, and that's a couple $1 million a year in sales. So, I mean, those are big dollars for us. And then they're talking about a portion of that property going to a lumber company and a building company. It's a company that does, I don't want to say the name, but it's a company that does the pole barn buildings, and then so they sell those. Then they have lumber and they have hardware and some other things there too. So I've given them all the TIF information, and I've been working with them on the possibility of them either leasing or buying a portion of that property from Herman Brothers. But all of that stuff would be big income for us.
And all of that seems like it's more probable than not.
I think the solar farm's definitely going to happen. The Herman Brothers, I think, will happen. I don't know when. The last thing they told me is they might start construction towards the end of 2025. I don't know about the lumber company. They've kind of gone silent on me since we had I sent them the information probably 2 months ago. The public works property we talked about last time, if we sold that, I ran the numbers. If it just went to a manufacturing company, property tax is only $5,000 a year, so it's not a ton of new money. It's new money, but it's not retail. Then if we did retail, then we'd pick up the sales tax too, and then the new gas station if that happened at the old mall.
Have we heard anything from him?
No, I know that the due diligence period was coming into August, and if they bought it, I heard it was going to be by the end of August, but I've not heard anything new. Potential cost changes, obviously the reductions if we have the lagoon, once that's done on the solar side, that should save us roughly $30,000 a year. That should happen sometime in 2027. Potential cost increases 24% from Illinois American Water. Who knows what else moving forward from them? But I don't see a bunch of other major cost increases. Current debt commitments. The only thing we've signed off on is $545,000 for the lagoon solar project, but that pays off in 10 quarters. So they're hoping to start construction in the next 30 to 45 days. So again, 2.5 years would put us, at 2027 again, somewhere towards the end of 2027.
How long is construction expected to take?
I think he told us it was only going to be a couple of months, and it would be in. I mean, the guys have prepped the whole area, and they know exactly where they're going to put it. And I guess maybe part of it would be how long does it take them to get materials. But
Yeah, so should be all done by the end of the year.
I hope. So 10 quarters at the end of the year, so that'd be all of 2025, 2026, halfway through 2027. Yeah. Current status cash on hand, so checking, we've got 475, savings 1.8, so 2.3 total. That's the total cash. And then what I did is I broke out, and this is the important part, I think. So if we take a step back and look at everything that we're working on. So let's look at streets. Cash on hand, we have $475,000, and that sounds like a lot, but they tell me if you all of a sudden you say, hey, we're going to tear up Murphy Road and redo everything on Murphy Road, that it's going to take almost all of that money just to do one road, right? So completely redoing any road in town is probably not a something that we're going to do. It's which is why we built the ongoing plan that every year we do 1/5 of the town in terms of spray patching and oil and chipping. So the annual plan is to spend about $70,000. I've rounded these numbers. MFT income's roughly $50,000, $55,000. So every year we spend a little bit of our cash to do the road program for the year. That's why, if you remember, go back to what Aaron said, and he said one MFT was losing money every year. Well, that's by design. We don't get enough MFT income to do 1/5 of we have to supplement that out of our cash. And we're putting money aside. We're putting $60,000 a year into the streets program. So we're netting roughly $40,000 to $45,000. So that $474, if we don't spend any of it every year, goes up $40,000 or $45,000 or something like that. Unaddressed items, any major road project that we said that we want to do. Before I came in, I know there was talk about expanding Main Street the way it's wider with the parking all the way down to the Park District. That was an idea that I know the board was talking about. We have a sidewalk project that we just talked about, but there's sidewalks other places in town that need to be done too. And then if we ever decided we wanted to do lighting, those would be the big things that would be coming.
Any word from the Park District on anything they've got going on?
Nope.
Yeah, that would be great to do Main Street, but it would make a lot more sense if there was something going on.
Current status on water. So cash on hand, we have $443,000 for the tower. General, that's really for water lines. So the point is, you put in the tower and you increase the pressure, all of a sudden you're going to have, and we know we have 4% leakage. That number is probably going to go up with the increased pressure, so we're going to have lines that we have to fix. So we're going to have something allocated there. We're putting $150,000 a year into new capital, $10,000 a month into tower, $2,500 into the general. And then the upcoming needs, we've got the water tower, any water mains or lines associated with the tower leaks. And then we've got the Pleasant Valley Water Source Project, which I'm hoping we can get numbers here in the next couple of months. It's hard because Jim's and those guys are doing it kind of on the side. And the only way we would do that is if the payoff was good enough. Sewer, we've got $169 in general and $98,000 in the lagoon. We're putting $72,000 annually into sewer right now. $5,000 a month into general, and that's really for sewer linings, and $1,000 a month into the lagoon. The sewer lining money that we're setting aside, that $60,000 a year, is basically we're just spending it, so the cash is staying even. So, and we'll probably spend a little more some years and a little less some years, but for the next 3 years, we know we're going to line sewers and spend somewhere between $60,000 and $80,000 every year for the next 3 years.
That will end about the same time as the lagoon.
Correct. So again, if you take that $60,000 that we're putting into sewer lining, now you probably want to have some money for sewer set aside for lift stations and those types of things, but that's $60,000, and if you're saving $30,000 on the lagoon, there's a roughly $90,000 swing.
If we don't include all of the meters, we're going to have to replace.
Yeah. And then future needs, we'll have to dredge the ponds and clean the sand filters again, but Jim tells me he doesn't think that's going to happen for 10 years. So
just did that, so
we've got some time. It's been a while since we dredged, but
Wait, the pond directly like behind on is it not Lakeshore, or what is it?
He means the retention, the
sewage.
Okay, sorry. I was just gonna say, why would we? Okay,
Yeah,
never mind.
Yeah, not the fishing pond.
I was gonna say, hold on. I don't get to use that, so.
Yeah. No, the silt obviously builds up, and
Makes sense. Yep, we're good.
All right, and then buildings and grounds. So we've roughly $60,000 on hand. A lot of that came out of the trail that was left over. We allocated it there. We're not putting any money into buildings and grounds at this point. Future needs, we got a truck. What's that with the, the plow and everything? Lights, $100,000.
yeah.
Public Works building would be $350 if we sold that property. So, I know Roger and those guys would like a new building or expand at least their existing building. And then I know Roger told me we're going to need a new mower on there, new whatever, but that's $12,000, $15,000. That's not a huge thing. Then if you look at the TIF district, we have $121,000 on hand, annual net income of $60K. Priority there is to make the coffee can a success, and if we can convert any no or low property into taxing properties like the Hannah City Glassford 116 corner or the Public Works property, that's what would increase the income for those
How's
things.
coffee can do?
My understanding is that they're kind of back maybe to where they were before they had to shut down. Maybe not quite, I don't know, but haven't been as close to that, honestly, as I used to be. Current BDD, so we have $264,000 on hand, annual income of $135,000. We're spending $100 just in the commercial and residential grants, but we've also been spending a little more than that on other little side projects. But those are our choices. We don't have to do that. We can use that for Public Works. But the board originally said they didn't want to do that they wanted to pump that back into the community and not use it for things like infrastructure. There, the increase would be add new businesses and increase sales tax. That's the only thing that's going to make that number go up. Although, 5 years from now, we only have so many businesses in town. We don't need to. How many grants can we give, right?
Right.
So maybe that money does become available to do something else.
Or maybe expand the
Residential. Yeah, no, that's a great point. That would be a great point. So I call this a capital project proposal. I don't know, as I just thought through it, and as Ryan and I kind of emailed back and forth on it, I think we definitely want to proceed with the sewer projects. We want to get the lining done. We want to get the solar installed. So we're kind of committed to those two things till 2027. But then their sewer lining's done, at least in our lifetimes, and solar paybacks in our lifetimes. So I think we need to complete the Pleasant Valley water source analysis. I just put in some projected cost. Does it cost $1 million to bring it down here? Do we get a 30% savings on our water? If so, that's $90,000 a year. Pays back in 11 years. What's the loan rate? That would be a full burden loan because we're not getting that from the EPA or wherever. So that rate would be higher. So do we use capital rather than borrow? Of course, the capital is getting 5%, and and the Illinois funds. Anyway, we could debate how we move forward, but I think that's a piece of information we need.
Versus also the theoretical continual raises of Illinois America.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the question is, if I came in here tomorrow and said we can do it, it costs $1 million and it's going to pay back in 10 or 11 years, would you do it? I mean, that's a 30% reduction in water costs.
Yeah, I think I would.
And then the question is, if you're committing those dollars, then, and I think I would too, to be honest with you, there's other stuff that's not going to get done, right? Anyway, again, the point here is I think anytime we bring in a project like the sidewalk, everybody goes, oh, that's a great project, we should do that. I think we got to step back and look at what is the total amount of work that needs to be done, where are we, and how do we time them in a way that it makes sense. Water tower loan process, I guessed in here the earliest we would see something would be July of 2025. You know, we would need to get 50% forgiveness in my view, or some other grants or something in order to make us do it, I think. Then the other thing, we could buy a truck in April maybe if we have a surplus of cash at the end of this year. Is there money to do that? If we want to do the cameras, can I build it into next year's operating budget rather than do it right now?
If we build it into next year's budget, how much are we gonna not be able to put back?
What do you mean? Oh, well, I mean, so, we've got like some one-time only things, like the code book. We budgeted, $15,000 a year to update the code book. Well, if the code book's done, that $15,000 next year can go to cameras, and our operating budget didn't change, right? Other than the fact that that's one-time only, and now we've committed those dollars year over year. But that's the kind of thing I would look at, is to see, or if there's savings somewhere. And then one project, do we want to do the sidewalk to Dollar General? Do we want to look at the public works property and building? Do we want to expand Main Street? Do we want to look into lighting? I did find that Farmington got a grant for their lighting, so Roger and you are looking into whether or not that still exists. So is there a way to do decorative lighting for a part of downtown? Or do we do nothing? Do we just wait for 6 months or a year and sit tight and see what happens with the Pleasant Valley water, what happens with the water tower? And I mean, my nature is, that was hard for me. My nature is always to, let's do something, right? But maybe the prudent thing to do is just sit tight and do nothing at this point for a while till we get some additional data. I'm going to shut up. Just what are your thoughts, reactions?
Can you expand more on lighting, what you're talking about?
So when we did, Zach can help remind me, but when we did, I think we asked the CEDC and some other people, like what would be some priorities outside of basic infrastructure upgrades that you would like. Sidewalks came up, lighting came up. So one of the things is people would like us 116 to be much better, more well lit. The other thing we talked about is putting, like Farmington did, putting some of those decorative lights down 116 to make it look more homey. The initial numbers on that were crazy high. So we kind of put that on the back burner, but now we found out about some grants. The other idea was, and this was before I ever got here, but how Main Street is wide, like where Gills is and where the fire department is, and it's got the parking and everything. There was a thought that you would expand that, go all the way from the Sportsman's Club to the park, right across from the Park District building, and do that, widen it, have the parking all along there, do the decorative lighting all along there, and that would create a downtown, a community location for the town to have events or people to walk or to, do whatever.
Which would be beautiful to go along with the plan that the Park District had to redo that whole area into an actual park. But there's no movement on that right now.
Yeah, they were going to put in like a outdoor bandstand and a place, pavilion to cook and a walking path and all that kind of stuff. The Park District was.
But the challenge is with that is, you know, if you have sewers to line, that feels a little elaborate, right? Or if you need a water tower, that feels a little bit elaborate. Doesn't mean we don't do it. It just means when do we do it?
Got it. Thanks.
Any other thoughts, questions?
How much was I know we just talked about it, the sidewalk.
Yeah, so then that's the next thing on the list. I don't think, did you have anything for finance? I'm sorry, I'm doing your job.
Nope, go ahead.
Finance, nothing on planning and sewer. The lagoon aerator invoice we don't have yet because it's not working.
You want me to do the water?
Yeah.
Okay. So we had 21 shut-off total with 3 actual shutoffs. The total amount for shut-off notices, $6,211.75. 0 shutoffs.
It's level pay.
Oh, goodness. 0 level pay. Sorry, I skipped a line. And then 0 shutoffs. And then, did you need the total amount in foreclosure?
Yes, number of foreclosure.
4 in foreclosure. The total amount in foreclosure is $683.37. Approximate gallons sold, 2,332,119. So 2,332,119.
For what it's worth, I asked Sarah today to look into the possibility when you get on the gallons sold, is also giving you, how does that compare to the same month last year?
So you actually did put last year. So last year the gallon sold was 2.5 million. This year's 2.3.
Okay.
And that's it, guys.
Weaver, nothing for buildings and grounds.
Yep. The street lighting on 116, the 5 new lights from Ameren are up. Has anybody driven up down at
I will tonight.
I'll have to.
I just wonder if it's making any difference at all. I know it's only 5 lights, but I wonder if it's making. They were kind of strategically located. I just wonder if it's.
Where's it at?
You can tell the lights. They're bright silver, where the other ones are kind of dark gray. But
No,
on
116,
116, they put 5 new lights up.
Cool.
Got them shining right in your bedroom window.
Yeah.
All right. So then in your deck, you've got this thing about on the. This is the street project, and I didn't update the cash numbers from last time because I was lazy. But generally, they're correct. So I'm not saying this is something that we should do. This is not an endorsement that we should do it. It's just if we decided we wanted to do that sidewalk, this would be a way we could potentially fund it. We've got $496,000 in streets cash. We use some every year to supplement the MFT program, roughly 20 grand. We've been saving for a big project, either sidewalks or one big road or something. TIF, we've got roughly $101,000, but we're going to give a big chunk of that back to the other taxing bodies, so there's not much cash there. BDD, we've got $258,000, and $125,000 of that is allocated for this year's grants, and then some additional amount for expenses. The estimated cost, so if we did the survey and the construction documents for IDOT, that's roughly 40 grand to take that first step. So 28 and 12 gets the project kind of, I guess, what we call shovel ready. Survey's done and the construction documents are in place. And then to construct it, they said there'd be $10,000 to $30,000 of engineering, $195,000 of construction, so there'd be between $205,000 and $225,000 of cost after that. Again, I don't know if proposal's the right word, but if we were going to approach it, maybe one option would be is to do steps 1 and 2 this year, spend $40,000, and don't throw anything at me, Zach, but use BDD funds, backed up funds for that. So I'd have to confirm that we could, and we'd want to talk to the CEDC about that as well. That would mean the new projected net BDD funds as of May of next year would be $91,417. Our estimated income would be $135,000, so that means we'd have $226,471 BDD funds going into next fiscal year. One option would be to pause the commercial grants for a year, take $100,000 and put it towards the sidewalk.
take 100,000 out of the street funds. So that basically eats up, what, 1.5, a little over 1.5 years of capital. And then we could build the remaining into next year's budget. Or we could do nothing and just wait. Or we could do the engineering and do nothing after that, which, again, I wouldn't do that unless we were sure we were eventually going to do the sidewalk. But this is why I showed you the other presentation, right? Because if you take a step back and say, we got sewers to line, we got money we borrowed for the lagoon, we've got a water tower, we've got a Pleasant Valley water possibly coming here, we've got a road program we do every year. Do we want to do anything, or do we want to just sit for 6 months? Because nobody's screaming that there'd be a sidewalk except for Caleb, but he didn't come to the meetings anymore, that there'd be a sidewalk down to Dollar General. I realize there would be huge benefit. But there again, you guys have to start making, I say you guys, we have to make decisions of, is that even the best project? Or is there another better way to spend those dollars? I said this at the last meeting. I think governing's now getting hard. It's easy to say, well, yeah, we need to line the sewers. Oh, yeah, we need to,
raise our rates. We need to
get
something for the
basic infrastructure. That the food, shelter, and clothing stuff is Laszlo's hierarchy of needs. That stuff, it's easy to spend money on. Now we're talking about, what's next, which is fun and exciting, and it's probably going to get noticed more by people in the town. But I think it's harder to decide. Do you expand Main Street, or do you put a sidewalk to, down to Dollar General? Or do you do nothing for a while?
Yeah, we're working on wants, not needs now. So,
Yeah, great place to be.
and it's not necessarily our wants; it's our residents.
I think
Go ahead.
my biggest priority, and maybe it just went over my head, that maybe it's our biggest priority, would be the Pleasant Valley water deal. I think as far as what's best for the residents, that would be my top priority. That's what I would want to start throwing time and money at, for the sole intention of trying to drive costs down for the residents, because I think they will notice that a lot more than 30 feet of sidewalk.
I agree.
That would make the most lasting impact. That would be, in my opinion, the closest to blurring the lines between need and want.
Yeah, to me, that's just a math exercise, right? I mean, if it's a 10-year payoff, I think we'd all say, yep, sign us up.
Easy.
If it's a 20-year payoff, in other words, if it costs $2 million to do it,
By 3.
I don't know. It's and then I agree. If nothing else, we need that data point, right? We need to know whether that's possible.
If it's 20 year, I mean, it's still like, I don't trust Illinois American for the next 20 years.
Yeah, that would give us at least more control. I wouldn't say we'd be able to control Pleasant Valley.
Right.
But we have a better relationship with them.
Sure.
If it's one of those things, hey, can we defer costs until we can get our rates up? Yeah, I'm sure that, that's something that we can negotiate with them on, and we know that it's, going to eventually go up if they have a raise.
Something tells me Pleasant Valley would be less comfortable with just hiking rates up.
Yeah, and even in the deal, we might be able to work something, because the big thing's going to be about their pricing, how much it's the cost to bring it here, and then are they 20% cheaper, 30% cheaper? I don't know the number, 40% cheaper? The math I ran was at 30% less expensive, which was if it cost $1 million, that's a 10-year, 11-year payoff. Maybe we negotiate. You hold your rate steady for 3 years or whatever, don't do anything till. But I think you're right. If we knew that was feasible, and we could postpone the water tower till 2027 and do that now. I mean, that would be nice.
Mm-hmm. I'm right with it. I mean, I'm a huge proponent of the sidewalk for selfish reasons, but thinking about kind of the money that we have, how many will the sidewalk impact versus like his recommendation of the water that's going to impact the entire town, right? In future generations, and it might even bring in more people because cost down, right? And that's actually one of the things that I'm kind of concerned with this water going up. As much as it is that going to impact the town's population? We already got people that are selling and moving because it's a seller's market right now.
Even if we went up 24%, we would still have the lowest water rates in the area. And actually, we did a study. We just participated in the study. We're going to have hard data in January when we get the results, where we can actually compare ourselves. They'll show us how we compare against other folks. So that'll be something we'll want to publish to people to show that.
I think that's a really good idea because I don't think it's going to be interpreted that way. And I think part of the problem is our bill is not just water when we get it in the mail, right? It's combined. So perfect example, when I complain about our water bill with my wife and to people, they're like, oh, well, our water bill is only $60 over in Pekin or $80 in Pekin. Well, it's because ours has wastewater and trash on it too. So
does it say water bill on it?
It says water, sewer, trash.
I wonder if we should just call it utility bill now or something like that. Maybe that's silly, but
I don't think it matters.
Well, if people are confused. Anyway, go ahead.
The history teacher made sort of shudders a bit whenever we bring up this talk of the water bill, and then somehow or some way we always say it's lower than everywhere else. But to me, that seems like a red herring, and that should not distract us from the fact that we still want even cheaper water.
Oh, no, without a doubt. Without a doubt. There's no... Yeah, don't take me saying we still have lower rates. I'm just saying, I was going to Chris's point, with the future and worrying about these rates, people moving out of town. Yeah. We still have the lowest rates in the area. That's what I was getting at.
Yeah, I don't think we would ever do... Well, you guys are the board, but I don't know that we'd ever do a market-based study and say, well, gosh, we're 20% lower than everybody else. We should raise our water rates. I can't see us doing that. I think I can see us saying, what he just said, which is, well, even though we have to take some action, if we compare ourselves with other people, we're still cheaper. Doesn't mean we shouldn't continue to look for opportunities to lower that cost. But your point's well taken.
So, one question is, do we want to do the sidewalk even if it's not right now? It seems like the answer is yes. So maybe we do that $40,000 initial just to get it shovel ready. We see what happens with Pleasant Valley. We can decide if we want to pull the trigger on the sidewalk.
I agree.
Seems wise.
Let me do this. Let me find out the timeline on the Pleasant Valley water study before I pull the trigger on the sidewalk, because we could have that,
Yeah, if it's going to be soon, then yeah, may as well wait.
I need to inject myself back into that a little bit.
I think the other stuff can wait.
But would the sidewalk be, if you're to look around town, would that, I know Caleb believes it's a huge thing that we give people the ability to have access to two of our largest sales tax generators.
It makes me turn around and go the other way when we're taking the kids and the dog out to walk.
Okay.
But I think expanding Main Street is going to have to wait. The lighting for that would have to wait. The Public Works building, unfortunately, that's a pretty big expense.
Yeah. For only $5,000 with the existing customer.
Yeah.
I'm often reminded of the movie Click. Did you ever see that?
Yeah.
Where Adam Sandler wants to fast forward. It's I almost want to fast forward to 2027 so that we can get all that stuff behind us.
I wouldn't be.
You can pop up and still see the water tower there and go, dang it.
So, all right. I think I have my direction. Let's find out where Pleasant Valley water is. That would be a big priority.
Yeah.
Continue on the water tower, and then if depending on where things stand, maybe look at least doing the engineering portion of the sidewalk.
Yeah, there's some waiting there, but it seems like for two of the big projects, it might not be a whole lot more waiting. If he says we're going to know by the end of the year if it's coming next year, That's not too bad.
Well, the other thing is, just because it comes doesn't mean we have to do it either.
Right.
Now, if they gave us 50% forgiveness, I think I'd pull the trigger to it.
But we'll also, by the time we get something back from them, hopefully we'll have some help from the federal government.
Now, that's another good point, is knowing where that stands.
Yeah.
I mean, I've only been battling that for 3 years, trying to get a hold of them, so.
Progress is progress.
So, let's keep moving forward. Anything else, Brian?
No.
Thank you for putting all of that together.
Yes,
Sure.
thank you very much. CEDC, Mr.
I think these are
Sidak.
papers that I will actually hold on
Nice.
to. 2 funding disbursements, one for residential, one for a commercial. The first one is for Steve and Michelle Fouts. They tore up some driveway, but some more driveway. And our cost comes out to $5,000 even. I'll make a motion that we approve the disbursement of funds to Project 24R2
I'll second.
for the cost of $5,000.
Motion by Sidak, second by Johnson. Everybody knows what we're voting on. Any questions, concerns? And we'll roll call it. Johnson,
Yes.
Sidak,
Yes.
Purcell, yes. Pearson,
Yes.
motion carries.
All right, the next one is for the Sportsman's Club. And what did they do? They installed new West Entry store, installed electrical services and lights outside, 3 gates for the beer garden, got debris off the ball diamond, repaired benches, did a bunch of beautification stuff to the ball diamonds. And our cost comes out to $12,286.15. So I'll make a motion that we approve the disbursement of funds to Project 24C2 with a cost of $12,286.15.
I'll make that motion. Or second. Did you make the motion?
Yes.
I'll second it.
Motion by Sidak, second by Johnson. Any further discussions, concerns? We'll roll call it. Sidak,
Yes.
Purcell, yes. Pearson,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
motion carries.
Just in the what process wise, those require Denise's signature, correct?
Yes, they do.
And stamp. When will she be back?
I don't know.
Okay.
Didn't even know she was going to be here tonight.
Well, she's on vacation.
I don't know what that entails.
So I do have another question for you.
I have an answer.
In talking about the sidewalk and possibly one of the options was not doing one of the grants one year to do the sidewalk or to help go towards that. How would you guys feel, or how would that board feel, do you think, about that? Is that something that they would support? Is that project in general?
I think if
Those are all signed by.
we talk to them about it, about CEDC about it, which we haven't met in a while, maybe we should. I think they could be on board, right? The CDC, they're really,
Because that's kind of I mean, it's right on 116. It's beautifying an area, getting more access to stuff.
yeah, they're not really married to the redevelopment programs in and of themselves. They're really just all about improvement. And I'm sure if we can explain that it would just be a method of improvement, I think they could go for it.
Yeah.
I think, especially, did we go over on budget, or did we meet budget for the programs?
No, we're good.
Like, did we have a surplus, or did we close it up?
If we have money left over, it's hundreds, not thousands. So we're close.
I'm sure we could probably use, because we did have a surplus, right?
We do have cash,
were not
yes.
reaching, well, as far as the redevelopment budget was going, the allotted money for the redevelopment
Yeah,
program.
for this year's program, like I said, we might have a couple $100 or whatever. But
I was just saying, I think for a while we were sitting on, still had about 25%. We could probably leverage that and say, well, you know what, maybe we had some left over, it's starting to slow down, we could probably pretty easily convince them.
another point would be if we did next year's commercial grants,
and let's say refuel, because I know they were late coming in this year, but let's say they did something, and I don't know, I guess Mondora's. I'm trying to think of the other businesses in town. If we did grants for another year, everybody, all the major businesses in town would have gotten money at least once before you paused. That won't be true after this year, but would be after probably next year.
On the 28th, which is next Wednesday, we have a TIF joint board review meeting. Remind me what that is going to entail.
Honestly, it's just a procedural thing where Jacob and Klein comes in and talks to all the taxing bodies about what incomes come in, what expenses have gone out, what's the state of the TIF district, allows them the opportunity to answer questions, and then we have to say that everybody was here, and but it's a requirement for having a TIF district.
Requirement. So are we communicating with the CDC yet? I haven't seen any emails.
I sent a CDC note I didn't send it to the CEDC because not everybody on there would be included.
Okay.
In other words, the at-large people, only the taxing body people. So I sent a note to the taxing body people. I don't know if I copied you or not, but they also get a registered letter from Jacob and Klein.
Okay.
Yep.
So we got that coming up. Maybe there'll be another pizza
What time is that meeting?
Yeah, what time is it?
I think it's 9 o'clock.
In the morning?
No, at night.
Easy now. That's her saying it's almost 8 o'clock. TIF joint.
I can drag this out in 3 hours.
It's 10 a.m. Wednesday the 28th, right here.
Brian, are you able to act as a representative of the village, or do I need to be there?
No, I can do it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I cannot make it that day.
I will be teaching geography.
Lucky kids.
They don't think so.
Yeah.
We're doing math.
They will someday.
We're doing math tomorrow for geography. Check delivery photos. Seen some good photos of our fair mayor out and about.
I'm only fair.
That's right. Wonderful. Wonderful.
Illustrates.
That's good. A gift to this community with the big old check. And then Thursday, right?
Thursday at 4.
Thursday at 4, I'm going to go.
Did you get all my emails?
Out. Yes, yes. Thursday at 4, I'm going to go take that. I'm probably going to take it with me tonight. Just so I don't.
Okay, and don't let me forget to give you the actual.
Is it just one check?
Yeah.
Yes.
And then we'll have these two that we approved tonight. And then I know the Bean, she's been ill. That's one outstanding one that we've got.
She's already got her check, but
Yeah, we went ahead and sent it to her already.
No, I'm just saying in terms of promoting it. I don't know. Sarah's tracking all of it.
Yeah.
And following up with people, so.
And yeah, just finishing up the process of disbursement and getting proof of payment for the rest of the projects. Thus concludes my report.
Administration,
Yeah,
into the report.
I'll cover the other stuff. As far as what follow up on the Peoria County Sheriff's Department stuff, so they were going to give us e-billing so we don't wind up with the double bills on certain months. That's happening now. Yeah. They're also going to send us a traffic violation monthly report to know, was somebody pulled over, where were they pulled over, and did they receive a ticket? And then we sent them the data for the Hannah City Glassford speeding, and they're going to make that a point of emphasis, and we'll be able to track via the monthly report as to whether or not we're getting any traction on that.
Have you gotten an monthly report about it?
I got the very first one, but it's in the I got one, yeah, so what it's going to look like. And they're getting new software, so they eventually think that they're going to be able to improve it. And then the sign is currently out here, and we're doing a month now. So we're going to leave it there for a month and then take the data and go from there. And I may need your help to figure out how to get this software on my laptop so I can track it and do the reports and all that stuff.
Okay. So, Sheriff's Department. Just says Hannah City. Sent to me yesterday, so looks like we had 4 calls August 13th through August 15th.
I'm sorry, August.
13th through August 15th.
Only 2
Serve
days.
papers, suspicious vehicle, and 2 motor vehicle stops.
Did it say where they were?
One was 700 North First Street.
12317.
Huh?
What was 112-317?
No, one was 13023 West Farmington Road.
You can tell us when the camera's on.
Yeah. Also, I had one thing that just came up.
Oh, you got correspondence too.
Yeah, I know.
I promise you, they're normally not this long. Sometimes
Oh,
they're
you're
only
good,
half an hour.
guys. I don't mean to be rude. I'm just I've been on E for like 7 days. So.
That's okay. Let's roll.
Makes me reminisce the old trail days when we'd be here till like 10 p.m.
Yeah, those were some long meetings.
Oh, yes. Correspondence. Got a thank you letter from Frank and Gloria. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Duryea. Village of Hennessy, thank you for helping with our valve replacement. Hopefully this will solve the problem we've been dealing with for years. We appreciate it, the help. Thanks again. Village of Hennessy, Sportsman's Club. Hennessy City Sports Club would like to thank the Village of Hennessy again once for providing the club with grant money to provide 3 outside projects. We'd also like to thank the Village of Hennessy for the help us improve our ball diamonds. We feel the community loves to see the diamonds being used by our youth. I know my own son has great memories of playing on the club diamonds and hope other children will have fond memories when they become adults. The 3 projects including repairing the entry door of the dining hall west end of the building, installing gates, limit the flow of traffic when we have outside events, and to keep event contained within the clubs. Our final project was to replace the electrical box by the concession stand, not only for appearance reasons, but for safety reasons. We added additional outside lighting to west end of the building for safety reasons. All these projects have helped our club's appearance. We want the club to be a place the community is proud of and feel safe when they come to events held at our facility. And that was thank you from Becky Largent, the secretary. Let's see, I had one other thing. I know. Hurry up, right? I can hear you, Cassandra.
Just giving Abby the full final experience.
So yeah, so I have the Marriage Association dinner tomorrow in Tremont.
Your screen's over there. You'd asked for us to bring.
Oh,
the
I
screen.
don't need that.
Okay.
I used that last time. We were going to use that last time when we were here in Hannah City, but due to the nature of the presentation by the Center for Abuse Children, they didn't think it relevant for them to be speaking loudly about some of the stuff in Gills when there were other people dining and stuff. We will be having it at the Village of Tremont in their rec center in an isolated area. So Carol was that nice enough to postpone it until this month. So anything else to come before the board?
No, sir.
Like I say, Abby, we're going to miss you. And if you ever need anything from us, please let us know.
Will do.
Okay. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Bye, Danny.